good morning or not good morning, depending on if you're watching live or if you are watching a replay later. Is it called a replay on YouTube? I'm not really sure, to be honest. Well, nonetheless, hi, welcome for joining me. I am sitting here Sunday morning and we're going to talk about how to start your job search. I am Diana Nostrom and I am a job search and career partner. Um, and yeah, I'm sitting. It's a bit cold today, so I have my heating blanket and my tea, and I'm ready to jump in. Um, so I just need to have my YouTube ready on the side just to be sure that everything is going fine. This is always a thing, right? So I haven't figured out how to do this well and in advance so that it works. There we go. There we go. Now I am up and running. There we go. So thank you for waiting for that. If you have questions about job search, about career, about anything related to Denmark, also if you have some cultural questions or something like that, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you are not here live, um, write in the comments your questions and I'll get back to them as well. Um, if you are watching live, I would love to know where you're from. Are you in Denmark? Are you not in Denmark? Where you're based? That would be lovely to know. Maybe even what kind of area you are working or want to be working in, because then I can use that as examples. So, what I plan on going through today in this live is all about um, how to get started. So, for first of all, I'm gonna be talking about a little bit about values. Then I want to go through Jobindex as a platform if I can get the tech to work here. I hope I can. And then I'm also, last time I had live, I talked a little bit about looking into ChatGPT. So I am going to try and do that as well. And sorry for the voice being a bit rusty. Gonna drink from my panda here, um, because I've been sick. But I am doing way better. It's just a voice that is kind of annoying sometimes. So let's dive in on my opinion on where to start on your job search, because I know that a lot of people are starting with, oh, I need to do my CV, and I just making a really good but generic CV that I'm sending out. And then, ooh, what about the cover letters? In Denmark, cover letters is still a big thing, so you want to do those. Um, but I really want to start somewhere else, because I want you to not just get a job, but I want you to get the job, meaning that a job that's not really that relevant for you is not worth putting a lot of time of effort into. And so starting with looking into your values and figuring out what is it that's actually creating meaning in your life, what is it that makes you happy, what kind of stuff is it that makes you feel alive. Like, and it might seem like, well, right now I just want a job, I don't care about um all of that like extra stuff. But the thing is that that opinion is also a value. That means that you value that either because you value the money or because it has something to do with identity in terms of um, what it is that you need to be able to feel like you are doing well. I have no idea why I have these in, by the way. That's not necessary. I hope that you can hear me. I'm fairly sure you can. Um, but so what I encourage people to do is go in and work with their values. There's a lot of things that you can do in terms of figuring out your values. There's a lot of, you can Google the, hey, I want to figure out what kind of online um, quizzes and stuff like that can you use, and that's fine. I do, however, because what the online quizzes usually do is make you answer a lot of different questions and then comes up with, based on that, something. And that's fine. I do, however, like to use a more manual way of doing it. I don't know if this makes sense to you, but what I mean is that I would do a list of like 60, 80 values, and you can Google this. And if I get the chance today, I will put one up on my website, which is careerconsultant.dk. But it's not there yet. But I would make this list, and then I would print it, cut out each word, and then I would take each word and say, for example, what's more important to me? Is it being creative or is it money? Okay, it's being creative. So I will put that over money. Okay, then what's more creative for me, or what's more valuable for me? Is it being in a good work environment, or is it being creative? Or then you'll take looking at that. Is it being creative? Is that more important? Yeah, probably, because being creative is part of a good work environment for me. Okay, but is the good work environment then better or more important or less important than being than the money? Oh, it's more important. Then I put it in here, so between the two, and then I take all of these different values, all of the words I have, and I simply do that. I take them one at a time and see, where does this next work fit into that list of things. And if it, when I'm done, then I have this list of amazing words that I say, okay, so now I know that, because sometimes it can be hard to say, so how important is creativity for you, or how important is facilitating? Like, I'm choosing words that make sense for me here, right? That I love facilitating, I love being creative, stuff like that. um by the way, I painted that. Oh, that, woo, hey. But how important are these things to you? And it's easier to say, well, if you have something to compare it to, saying, well, it's more important to me than this or this, than just saying, oh, it's like 50% important to me. So having that like comparison all the way through can really help make it more visible what is really important to you. I hope this makes sense. If there's something that doesn't make sense, or you in general have questions, just let me know in the chat or in the comments. Then when you have done that part, I encourage you to take the top 3 to 5 values and define them. Because then again, when I say I love being creative, what does that mean to me? Because what creativity means to you might not be the same as it means to me. So when I define that, I get even more focused in on what is it that's important to me. That means, because getting back to the job search part here, or landing in the right company, or figuring out if the company you're already in is the right one for you, that means that looking into what are their values, what do they mean when they say, oh, in this company we value creativity and open-mindedness and stuff, and then they usually explain what that is to them. And if you define being creative or being open-minded as something different than the company, then it might be like, okay, so then I need to figure out, does that make sense for me to apply? So by knowing yourself and knowing your values, your kind of core values, it's also easier for you to have an idea of, is this company and this position a match for me? Meaning that you will then have, it's going to be easier to apply for the jobs, because you're going to have much more of a pull towards the right jobs for you. It's going to be easier to figure out what to ask when you ask questions, what to write about, what things to kind of draw out in your material, because you know yourself better. So you know what's important to you. Again, I hope this makes sense, because I think this is like one of the very, very base things of looking for a job and being, well, being human, but also like being in an opportunity where you can actually say, okay, so I'm not just doing this for survival. I know some people are, and in Denmark that's usually not the case. So when I have some options of saying this is my value, this is what I aim for, then I can also say, okay, so based on that, I do not want to work for companies who work with tobacco or alcohol, for example. Those are two things I wouldn't, because I don't kind of think those things are great ideas. Um, so basically, having those values down is a good idea. Also, when you are looking into applying for a job in a country that is not your native country and it's not your native language, there are two things that I encourage you to also do. So, one thing is to get to know the language, start learning the language, even though you are maybe not. Um, that you don't have, like, you don't want to learn the language right now to like perfection, that's okay, but just starting to learn the language and getting yourself into it a little bit, it's gonna increase your chances of getting a job. That's one thing, but it's also showing the employer that you are making an effort and wanting to be here, so or be in the country. So other than it actually being a benefit of knowing the language of the country you're in, it also sends a signal that you're serious about being here and you're serious about applying for the jobs that you're applying for. And then the other thing, of course, is getting to know the culture. There's a lot of different things that might be um, strange to you in terms of the Danish culture or the other way around. So um, I had facilitated a course the Thursday and Friday this week, and one of the things we spoke about was the culture of time. And in Denmark, we're very time focused. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's important. So I know not a lot of other cultures, it's different, but in Denmark, you basically show up on time, meaning that if you have a meeting that starts at 9, you're there 5 minutes to 9. It's not maybe 5 minutes past or 10 minutes past, because the meeting are expected to start at 9. And in Denmark, it will often be perceived as rude or um, wasting other people's time if you're being late, without, especially if it's without giving notice. If there's a reason, it's, of course it's okay to be late if there's a specific reason, but if the reason is that you just didn't get out of the door in time, you slept 5 minutes 10 minutes longer, and that's okay with you, then that's going to be perceived as rude in Denmark. So that's one of the like easiest examples for me to give, because it's some of the things that I see a lot of differences in. And I know that often it is not because internationals or expats are rude or want to be rude, because you grew up in a different culture where the norm is that, well, if it's we're meeting at 9, we're probably just not starting until 9:15, so it's okay to be 10 minutes later than the start time. But it's just to say that that's not the case in Denmark. So knowing the culture is also a very, very good start. Um, and like especially if you're going for job interviews. By the way, if you are looking for jobs, then I am today at, well, at noon, 10 minutes to noon, depending on the service my newsletter provider has. I'm sending out a newsletter, and it is going to be about the first part of um, job search. So basically, I'm gonna try and give you a link here. I just need to do it in the right way. Here we are in the chat. So if you want to sign up, and then the idea is that next week it's going to be the next part of the interview, and then the pre or the post interview in the week after. I'll see, maybe something else comes up, but then at least you get the 3 points of interviewing. You can get that in the newsletter. And this is also very much how I work. Something pops up in my brain and then off on a tangent. But that's also the power of how I work, because then we get around a lot of interesting things. So if you feel like it makes sense to you, sign up for the newsletter, and then today you will get the first one about how to prep for the job interview. So, that was values and prepping, or a little bit about prepping, a little bit about culture. What I want to see now, I need to see if this is working. 1 second, because I have prepared a little bit of a walkthrough, but I am not sure if this is actually all working. Let me just see. Wow. Thank you guys for being here. That's amazing, because this is okay, not working. That's annoying. Oh, that's why. Ah, there you go. Can you see this now? I hope. Let me just see. There's a lag on the live. That is why I am right now waiting, because I need to see if you actually see what I'm seeing, because it makes no sense for me to start with, hey, you are amazing. So what I wanted to go through with you guys was the Jobindex part. So basically, Jobindex is Denmark's biggest job search site. So as you can see up here in the top, there's 36,000 jobs today. It's said that about 80% of all Danish job sites or job postings are going to be on this site. So let me just see. Let's just make a quick search here, because you're just searching here. And for some reason, I want to put this into English. That's kind of... So right now, if I just search for engineer, there's going to be 556 matches, and I have not put in any area here yet. So the reason you want to be using Jobindex in Denmark is basically because it is the biggest job site, and lots of companies still use it, and there is going to be lots of jobs on Jobindex that are not on LinkedIn or Glassdoor. There's also going to be the other way around. More and more companies in Denmark are using LinkedIn, and really it's about 55%, I read somewhere, of the Danish population does have a LinkedIn profile. That means that's a lot, because it's of the entire population, right? So a lot of people in Denmark have that. But let's get back to Jobindex, because it is still the place, as I see it, that has the most actual job, like where it's easiest to search, and there's most job postings in Denmark. If you have questions for this, please let me know. I'm gonna go through this fairly quickly maybe, but then I also have a specific video on how to use Jobindex, but I just want to show you some of the cool things about searching in Jobindex. So for example, here we have engineer, right? And you want to look at the capital area. Let's see. Then it's about half that you can do. But then let's say you want to be in I don't know, test engineering, then we can write plus test. Then now in this search, both engineer and test has to be in that job post. And then because we can both do engineer, but it could also be engineering. So if we make this star, it will say it can be any end of the word. So that gives even more posts, right? So in this way you can kind of make, and you can set more pluses. So plus, that's just because I have no idea what you're doing. Oh, it could be plus Python, I think. I think that's a thing. I don't know. Yes, that seemed about right. So here in this post, you would have something engineering, test, and Python have to be in the post before this comes up in here. If we then, for example, remove the plus from Python, now either, well, test has to be there, but then either engineer or Python with the test part. So the plus means that the word has to be there. When there's no plus, it can be there. Let's say that you want jobs that are specifically test engineers. Then you would do test and then no space but a hyphen and then engineer. Then these two words have to come directly after each other in the job posting for them to go up. And as you see here, test engineer is here. Ooh, you could also do software tester. See, here, either software test or test engineer is in this, in the job ad. Good, so we've had the, yeah, okay, so I go more into depth in the video on my channel that's called something with Jobindex, I think. Another thing you can do is you can create a job agent. When you do that, so basically I see a lot of people creating job agents based on just a general search. So let's say you just create a job agent on the term engineer or sales. You'll get so many posts and not really relevant. So what I'll do, I will create a search that is so specific that, let's do plus Python again and see. Yeah, so this, for example, is fairly specific. That I would create a job agent about. So whatever comes down to being your dream jobs, then you create a job agent, because that means that you can then get notified in your email when there are test jobs available. Well, when your dream jobs are available, right? So you don't get a lot of spam, because if you get an email each day with like 50 new jobs, it's gonna get to be spam for you really fast. But if you only get an email when there's something really specific, then it's going to be interesting. And then you can always go in and make all the other searches on the go. You can also set up for a specific company. You can also use, here you have active. There's also an archive. So if you go into the archive, you get a date interval down here that you can choose. And what that gives you is the option of looking what other positions has been available, which other companies have this kind of positions that could be interesting for you. And some of them are available to go in and read depending on where they've been. If they've been posted directly on Jobindex, they're still there. If they've been posted on other platforms, they're probably not available anymore. Yeah. You can also go in and check your salary here. So go in and say job title area. So let's say, or let's keep to the engineer. Yeah. And let's just keep to the, it's always, the pay is usually higher in the Copenhagen area, capital area. Let's go with a master's degree and say you have 2 years of experience and 0 years of management experience, and you are 28. Is that okay? So this is the average monthly salary. Be aware that this is that this is based on what people have said in the database, meaning that this is what they kind of wish to get, right? That means that this number is probably for someone who's looking for a student job, and these numbers are probably the same or very startup. Engineers should not get this amount. So what I would do, I would look into taking the average of these parts instead. So kind of looking into where do you think you are? If you're newly graduated, you might be somewhere around here. So just do the calculations yourself, because you're also probably not going to be up here with the 60 to 80 as a newly graduate. Because, and it's just like, what I always encourage people to do is ask the union representatives. So in Denmark, it's very normal to be part of a union, and I very much encourage you to do that. Um, so ask them, and then look at this and kind of compare the two, because none of the numbers are going to be exact, but it can give you kind of an idea. You can also test yourself. Personality tests, since this is not translated, I'm not sure if it's there in English. Nope, that comes in Danish. What does it say? Yeah, only available in Danish. Stress test, measure stress level, that you can do. So basically, they have not translated everything into English. But still, it's a great site to kind of get ideas for, or get postings that are available right now, but also to kind of get ideas of what to do and what to search for. Yes. Okay, so I hope this makes sense to you. Again, I would love to know, the people watching, if you want to share with me where you're from, if you have any questions and stuff, I would love to answer them. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep going. I just need to look into my papers here. Oh yeah, another thing on Jobindex, and in general when you're searching for jobs, also on um, LinkedIn and stuff like that, be sure to not just think in terms of job titles. So I search for job titles, but also think about, it's very, very useful to search on um, tasks as well. So if you know that you want to be working with coordination and testing and I don't know, QA, then write that in and see what jobs comes up, because on Jobindex at least, they are looking for through the entire job posting and not just the um, not just the title, meaning that you can really um, find some unexpected interesting jobs while you're using the job tasks instead of just the titles. I want to show you one last thing on Jobindex. So I just typed in another search, and I want to show these here jobs are jobs that the companies are paying to have there. So that's why they have their big logos, their pictures, stuff like that. But if you scroll down, and you can see here, this is from the 22nd and then the 28th up here. If you scroll down, you come down to postings without pictures, without these big logos and stuff. Those are the ones that are not paid for, meaning that this is actually posted on the 13th of October, and this was the 22nd. So Jobindex will post, which makes sense for them, the paid ads first. Meaning that for you, if you have like a lot of jobs in the searches you're doing, go down and also look into the jobs that are not paid ads, because a lot of people end up being like, oh, then they're finding 3 jobs and then they're stop looking. So they'll just apply for them and not going into all of these. So there might actually be less competition. I'm not saying there is, I'm just saying there might be. A way to also do this will be to go into more search options and then look at postings from the last 4 days only, for example. Then you will get this way faster, right? Yeah, so that's also just what I wanted it to show you here. Good. Okay, so the last thing that I want to dive into a bit today is going to be ChatGPT. And I am no expert, I want to say that, but I do want to test this with you guys. um, because yeah, it's a new thing, and well, new but it's a thing, and it's becoming more and more valuable to use. What I want to say before we dive into this is to make sure that you always check, like, check for accuracy of the results it gives you, and remember that what you put in is also equal to what you get out value wise. So if you put in dumb questions, you're gonna get dumb answers, more or less. Like, that's a bit harshly said, but generally the value of what you put in equals the value of what you get out, right? So when you use it, remember also to adjust it to your needs. Meaning that, for example, I've had multiple clients who have used it to write their about section, either for their CV or writing part of their cover letters, which is totally fine. But just remember that it has to be you, and you also have to look at the cultural aspect of it. For example, in Denmark, we have this thing called the law of Jente, or in Danish, Janteloven, which is this stupid thing basically saying you shouldn't feel that you're more than others, and don't make too much of a spectacular about yourself because you want to fit in, you want to be part of the group. Um, so basically, when you then use ChatGPT, what I've seen multiple times is that the way it phrases things might seem a bit show offish to Danish people. And it's it's not that it's meant to be that, but that's just a way that, or maybe it is basically, but that's the way that's communicated in a lot of other cultures. Whereas in Denmark, we're more, maybe a bit more, I don't know, humble is, if that's a word, but you would never write that. That so as you see, I excel in this and this and this. You would rather write that. So I can help you do this and this and this. So every time you write something in general on job search, just in general, basically in Denmark, thinking about what is the value that I can create for someone else. So how do I do this? So when you then use ChatGPT, remember to also have that in mind, saying you have to be value focused. Um, okay, so ready? Let's go. I have here, let's see, here we are, my ChatGPT. I have chosen to, out here on the left, there is a menu. I have hidden that right now because then you will see all of my searches, and I don't really feel like sharing those. So, but basically there is a menu that up here you can open the sidebar and you'll get like your previous searches here. But this is what ChatGPT looks like. You can either have the 3.5, or you can have a paid version that gives you a bit more. And the paid version, I think, is $20 a month or something like that. But let's keep it in the free one, because even though I have a paid version, you can do a lot in the free version. Um, and one of the things that I always tell my clients to do is start with asking questions. So basically, when you are looking for a new job and you're looking through the job postings, I always encourage people to really read through it, have your own like your pen and your highlighter in hand, highlight, figure out what kind of questions can you ask that would make sense to you, with the basis of you need to get information to see if this position is really interesting to you, additional information, but you also want to ask questions that show the company that you are interested in them, and that you kind of feel like this is interesting, but how can you also show them that without, again, without bragging and without pitching yourself. You're never calling to pitch yourself. And again, it's very normal in Denmark, by the way, to call. It's not a thing. A lot of the companies have contact information in the position, so you would call and ask because there's a number there for you to do so. um So asking your questions, showing that you're both interested and that you have knowledge about the field that you're applying into, and getting some good questions from that. So based on that, we could then do this little exercise in ChatGPT. Um, I know that there's a debate. Should we be nice to ChatGPT or does it matter? I try to be, because one thing is that maybe someday the machines are coming. I don't know. But basically, it's also a way of trying to keep my own communication polite. So in general, if I stop being polite when I write to ChatGPT, I might also be less polite in my emails and everything else. So I just try to be polite. So I would say, please act as a job seeker. Looking, let's do an expat job seeker. Looking for, you can't see what I'm writing. Sorry, you can see it in a bit. Please act as an expat job seeker looking for jobs in Denmark. Provide me with some good questions to ask when calling. Maybe we should actually set, please act like a expert instead. Expert career advisor. Helping job seekers. In Denmark. Please provide me with some good questions to ask a company when calling before writing the job application. There we go. I should probably have done these in advance. Okay, so here it comes up with some question ideas. So let's have a look. Can you tell me more about the company culture? Nice. That's actually a good question. What is the team culture like for the department I'm interested in? What are the main responsibilities and goals for the position? That is probably, well, you can ask it like that, yes. So one thing that you should be aware of always is not ask questions that are already mentioned in the job ad. So basically for this question, what I would do would be say, okay, so you have a really interesting post here. Could you explain to me what would my normal work week look like? Because that way you get that information on what's most important. So with the question here that ChatGPT gave about what are the main responsibilities and goals for the position, they might just say, well, that's already posted in the jobs description. So be mindful of this. What's the typical career progression for someone in this role? I would ask that probably at an interview and not before call or when you call. How diverse is the workplace? Again, not a calling question in my book. What are the company's values and mission? This you have researched for before you're calling. This you can find on their website. Okay, so this is actually a pretty good example of being aware. So yes, there's great value, there's great inspiration to get, but also look at, are there any of these that might be an issue to actually ask? What's the company's stance on remote work, especially in the light of recent global changes? Yeah, again, it's something that I would probably say for a job interview, to be honest. But it's a fair question. I would not bring in the pandemic, but I would definitely. It's a fair question to ask. More and more companies are looking to get people back into the workplace. So if this is important to you, then for sure make that a question. Also, so this is great. Now you have some questions to ask, but maybe we could make these questions, like I was saying before, even more focused on the company and on you. So, what I did is I found a position, and I also found or I made a more or less anonymized copy of my own CV. So, um, let's copy the text I had in here. So please act as blah blah blah. Um, so what we'll do is please act as an expert advisor and expert. Provide me with some good question to ask the company when calling before writing the application. Please take into account the job posting provided and my background or the background of the applying partner of the from and the background from the CV. And then I will copy in the text. And here I will usually also try to not copy in the contact information, just like, as well as not putting in my own personal information. I don't put in other people's personal information. By the way, there's, as I see, I did not check this in advance, but there's no phone number here. There's only an email. So based on that, I would still do all of this prep work. I would find the information, or I would find the questions. Then I would write them an email and saying, "Hey, I have some questions. Something. Don't word by word this, but I have some questions. I would love to speak to you if possible. Is there a time that I can call you up? I would love to do that. If not, here are my questions," and then attach the questions as well. The reason you want to call is create a better connection with the people that are interviewing, but also it's better, or it's easier to get misinterpreted on in writing than when you're speaking to people, and you also get the option of follow-up questions. So yeah, I'm taking the description, copying that in, and then the CV, and then I just need to find that and copy that in. So the position I found and my CV, it's kind of a stretch, but let's give it a try. And yes, so that was a lot of text. Yes. So see, here it comes up with other types of questions. And let's have a look here. Can you provide more information about external communication strategy at Tama and the specific goals for this role? That's kind of cool. What are the key challenges and opportunities in their external communication that the head of communication should address? This position were for head of communication. Can you describe? So you see, are there really interesting questions here? Much more specific. So what I would probably do would be take a mixture of those questions and the questions that it gave me before. So, well, first of all, I would read through and come up with my own questions, because I think I know it's more time consuming, but I really think that it is important for your sake, to be better in the entire process, to actually put in that work as well. So use ChatGPT as something extra to give you that extra help, and then go from there. So what I would do from here is I would pick out those, let's say, 3 to 5 best questions that I could get the most value from, and all of the time keep in mind, how do I use these questions to, one, show that I am a potential candidate, and the reason or the way to show that is to actually ask question that shows about the job and the position, maybe even a bit about the company, but also questions that can help you to figure out if this company is something that's worth being in for you. Is this position actually right for you? And you can do that based on your values. You could even maybe put in here, so my top core values are this, so please take that into account when creating these questions. The next step that I would do then using ChatGPT would be then getting those answers. So calling the company with these questions or writing them depending on what you can do. And then using those answers, letting ChatGPT know, hey, here's the job description. Here are my here's my CV. These questions I've asked, and here are the answers from the company. Please let me know what I should focus on in my profile text for my CV, for example, or please let me know which parts I would maybe put in for that part. I would, and in general, also the first part, I would put in a master CV. So not the tailored CV, but your CV that has everything in it. And then I would ask it to say, please let me know which things I would get most benefit from actually putting focus on in my CV. And then also, please provide me with an interesting cover letter that has a headline and 3 subheadlines and focusing on the value I can contribute to the company with. Yeah. So I can't really do that right now because I don't have like the answers to the questions. But what we could do actually, we could try and copy in. Let's do the same. Let's try and make a cover letter, just to. So I'll just copy all of this again. Oh, that was not the intention. Let's see here. Copy all of this with my CV and everything. Here we are. And then copy that in, and then I'll go up here. Please act as a provide me with a provide me with a good cover letter. Based on the job posting provided and the background and the CV provided. Yeah, let's give that a try and see what it comes up with. Oh, what a thing we should have mentioned that I did not was that in Denmark, a job or a cover letter is max 1 page. So now it gave us an idea. So what I'll say, thank you. Please provide the cover letter for max 1 page and include a statement headline as well as 3 subheadlines. Let's see what it comes up with. Now it's thinking, okay. So you see here that in terms of also knowing the cultural value of where you are, that it is still keeping the dear hiring manager. I would never write that. In Denmark, the structure is very, very flat, so you won't see that kind of type of thing in Denmark. Well, not usually at least. So, but that's also something to keep in mind. Is it, are you looking, or are you applying with someone who's Danish, or are you applying with someone or in an environment that's predominantly international? Because there also might be some ideas here. The idea with writing something that's more informal and more focused on the receiver is that when we are acting or when we are talking to people's feelings, we are more likely to get a positive response if those feelings, of course, if are positive feelings about, right? That's why we want to talk about the value we can create, because if we can create excitement with the receiver of whatever we're doing, then that becomes a more positive thing to do. So basically, what I would use ChatGPT for, if I were to use it to write my cover letters, what I would do would be, for me, make sure to know how to write a good cover letter, and then go in and say, okay, so I have these 4 cover letters. I got interviews for all 4 of them. So please write a cover letter for this position in the style of these cover letters. Or even better, would go in and say, what is it that is the common denominator in these 4? What is it in this writing style? Please analyze is the word I'm looking for. The writing style and the focus in these 4, and the commonalities in these 4 cover letters, and give me a framework of how would I use that to write a new cover letter. And then it gives you a framework, and then you look through it and say, okay, is there something you want to add? And then going forward, you would say, please use this framework to write me a cover letter for this position based on my CV here. So you're kind of using the same idea, right? To get it, that way you would also get it into your way of writing, your way of phrasing, and what's been working for you prior. I hope this makes sense, and that was just a little bit of touching upon ChatGPT. I do encourage you to actually go in and look at it yourself. I do want to also share with you, because I am starting the Job and Career Network in Denmark on November 1st. So if you are interested in that type of thing, and join, it's going to be an online network. I have given you a link in the chat where you can read a bit about it. On the 1st of November, I will open up for the first 20 members to be founding members. So if you want to read more about that and maybe have the chance, sign up for the newsletter, and there will be more information there. But you can also look at the website. And also, of course, if you have questions, feel free to let me know in the chat, in the comments. I have a buy me a coffee site where you can support me. If you want to support me, that would be great. But also what you can do is you can go in and find my services in terms of a video feedback on your CV, or a one-to-one online meeting, that you're very welcome to do that, of course, as well. That is it for today. There's no questions in the comments, so I will say that thank you so much for watching. I hope you got value, and again, questions in the comments, and then have an amazing day. Today is Sunday, so if you're watching this today, then have an amazing Sunday, and if not, then just an amazing whatever day you're having. Take care, and see you soon.